Welcome back to Bowers Creations. New day, new project. Today we're going to build a stand for this drill press. So this drill press has had more comments, more suggestions than any other thing in my shop. Y'all want to see it off this welding table. You want to see it on its own stand. And today we're going to do that. Oh yeah. So before we get started, I just wanted to let everybody know I'm sorry I missed y'all last week. After our week-long vacation, getting back, getting the chores done, yard work done, laundry caught up, stuff like that. I just didn't have time to put out a video, but I was on vacation. That's going to happen from time to time. So we're going to get back at it, get the videos rolling again. And today we're going to start by building a cabinet. So Marketplace struck again. This time it was free though. I didn't pay anything for it. But I got these massive drawer banks here. And what I was really after was the drawer guides. I thought they was full extension guides looking at the pictures. Come to find out they're just an older style guide. I was kind of fooled by them. But we got these huge chunks of whatever they are. I don't know what they were used for. Neither did the homeowner or original owner. But when I got to look at them, they got a lot of 3/4 plywood, some 5/8 plywood. The plywood on these drawers is a pretty nice plywood. They'd make some good drawers. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to break this down, get it all usable, cut out the nails, square it up, things of that nature. And then we're going to start our drill press stand and use this to do it. So I'm going to try to build this drill press stand as cheap as possible. We should have plenty of material to build a nice strong cabinet. We have plenty of material for drawers. I have 4 drawer guides right here. Plus I have a 5th set of drawer guides stashed away. So other than some casters, I do have a set of casters, but I don't think they lock. So we might have to buy some casters and then paint. I want to paint it to match my toolboxes. So we're going to have some expenses, but for the most part, we're aiming for as cheap as possible. So that produced a whole lot of plywood. There's a bunch of this 5/8 sheeting right here. There's 4 of these squares that are nearly 4 foot by 4 foot, and then 3 of these squares that are 2 foot by 4 foot. Of course, there's some nails and dados we need to cut out, kind of clean it up, make it more usable. I got a plan for this, but we'll see if it comes to fruition. Now, this stuff over here, this is what I was really after. So there were some really nice chunks of some maple plywood. That'll paint up nice for us. And then even the face frame's made out of maple. We'll have to watch where our nails are, but this is real usable material. And even this drawer material, it's going to take some work cleaning it up, getting it processed. So what you could do with this plywood that's all shot up full of nails, usually if your nails are in the end grain like this is, take you a dull pair of wire cutters, and usually they pull right out. Pretty simple task, just like so. Now, what you're going to have to do, when you got nails coming through the face of your plywood, like here, you can pull them out quite often, but what they're going to do is tear up your veneer. So you can see here, it kind of chipped up and peeled out the veneer. I'll show you one more time. So you can pull it out, but it's going to tear up your veneer. Another thing you could do is if you move it back and forth, you could break it off. Now that's a little less invasive, but now there's a nail in there, so you can't cut it or mill it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the radial alarm saw, cut all the ends of these off, get rid of the nails, and then I'll run it through the table saw and get rid of these dados and these round over edges. And that's how I'm going to process all this. Now on your hardwood, chances of getting a nail out are very slim. If it's a poplar or a pine, you might be able to pull a nail out. But this maple or oak or ash, you're not going to get a nail out. You're just going to end up cutting it, and then it's going to be sticking up a little bit. You'll have to set it. So your best bet is to go ahead and just break it off. Again, that breaks it off fairly flush. If you're going to be milling the lumber, probably better start with fresh lumber. Well, that took a little more than I thought it would, but we got everything cut down, got it squared up, ready to use. Now, I don't have my casters here. They're about 20 minutes away from here. So I got to run over there and get them, see if they're going to work, or stop by Harbor Freight and get some more. And then I could come back, we could start designing our height and getting our final measurements for our build. So after looking at this all day yesterday, again this morning, put it on paper, I finally settled on a design. I got it on the drawing board here. We'll take a look at it. But you got to understand, it took me a while because I only have so much shop space left. I got to allow for that. I wanted a certain amount of storage out of my cabinet, so I had to allow for that. And then I'm using used material. So by the time you combine all those factors, it took a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of design work. Now, if you notice, I got a bunch of my box parts. I got my face frame built. It's all on the floor ready to go. So if you're new to the channel, or maybe you forgot some of these terms or definitions, definitely go check out my $9 garage cabinet build videos and my simple shop drawer videos. Those videos will help you get caught up on some of this terminology, some of this process, and I won't have to explain it all in this video. So what I came up with, my cabinet's going to be 31 inches tall. By the time I add casters and a top, we're going to be about 35.5 inches tall. I don't know what I'm going to use for my top yet, so I can't nail this number down exactly. Now I'm going to build my cabinet 14 inches wide. My top will be 15 inches wide, so that'll give me about a ½ inch hangover on either side. Give it a little detail, I guess you could say. I'm going to build the cabinet 24 inches deep, and then my rip for the plywood for the side is 22 inches. Now my face frame material is only 3/4 of an inch, so that extra inch and a quarter we're going to make up later. I'm going to do some custom work to this face frame that will make it kind of look like the toolboxes. It'll be built pretty similar to the toolboxes. So for my drawer openings, we got a 12-inch drawer opening on the bottom, and then these 3 drawer openings are almost 4 inches. They're 3 7/8. So for my face frame, I got 2 2-inch stiles. I got an 1.5-inch bottom rail. These 3 rails are 1 1/8, and then the top rail is 2.5. Now I'm going to start nailing this together, and I'll explain the parts that ain't as simple as we go. So I'm going to glue and nail this together using 16 gauge brad nails. I've already marked a line on my upright here that is 1.5 inches up to the top of the shelf. That way it'll line up with the top of the rail on the bottom of our face frame. Something that makes this easier, if you want, take your framing square and mark the opposite side of where you're going to shoot. That way you're less likely to miss. Now something that's extremely important when you're doing these nailers like I am here, always double check before you glue and nail them. But again, I'm going to use nails, some glue, and we're going to shoot these nailers in. Keep your fingers back. Get the back nailer in. We're going to make it vertical. That way if you're screwing it to the wall, you'll be able to run screws in it. I'm putting an extra bottom on here. Since we're using casters, I want the bottom to be extra sturdy and extra material to screw the casters into. I'm probably going to use lag bolts instead of bolting it. So this will just give me a lot more meat to do that with. And here's your trick. Since I'm shooting 1.5 inch nails and I got 2 pieces of 3/4 plywood, if you angle your gun, you're less likely to shoot all the way through. Face frame, again, glue all the way around. I'm going to start at the bottom, split the difference, make sure it's centered side to side, shoot along the bottom rail or the bottom shell. And then again, I'm going to split the difference. On a larger face frame, you might want to work your way around, but a smaller one, you could bounce straight to the top, split your difference, and go from there. So here I'm putting in some extra structure on the top. We'll cover this up with the top eventually, but this way we have just a little bit more material to bolt our drill press to. I'm going to have to piece this together because I don't have nothing big enough, but with the glue and nails, it'll be just fine. This will also help square it up a little bit if it's not already. I'm fairly certain it's good, but a little extra goes a long way. Now I like to scribe stuff in. You'll see me do this quite often. It works pretty good. We're going to get a few nails in this, wipe off the excess glue, and we're good to go. Now we're going to start with belt sanding. Always belt sand your rails first, or the inside of your face frame, and work your way out. Do your long styles and the outside of your face frame last. Finish up with a little bit of 120 on the orbital sander, and we'll have this thing just about ready to go. This is just a preliminary sand. We'll do some more sanding later. So yesterday we pretty much got our cabinet finished. I need to go back, putty and sand. I did a preliminary sand, but we'll go back and putty it, make it nice and pretty. We got to get the casters on. We got to get the top on, obviously. But I also need some blocking for the drawer guides. The drawer guides will mount right here on the face frame. And then we need some blocking in the back of the cabinet. And what I'll do, I got this here. This was the drawer runners to the original bank of drawers. I'll get this measurement right here from the plywood to the face frame is 1.25 inches. So when I dig out the planer, I'll plane this down, and then we'll mount this vertically in the back of the cabinet wherever a screw hole is in the drawer guides. Speaking of drawers, we also need the drawer heads. Now typically, anytime I do a drawer head, I do 1 inch taller and 1 inch wider. I build just about everything with the 1/2 inch overlay, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to stick with the inch taller, but I think I'm going to only do a 1/4 inch on either side. So 1 inch taller, 1/2 inch wider. And that's what we got going on here. Since I'm trying to build this as cheap as possible, I got a hodgepodge of stuff I glued together to make the drawer heads. Excuse me. This piece will make one drawer head. Then we got some pine with some of the maple from the face frame that just stabbed the daylights out of me. And then we have some poplar with the maple. Again, once we get the planer out, I'm going to plane this down to probably 3/4. I might go down to about 5/8. That'll make a nice drawer head. And then I also got the drawers done. I've got a video on drawers, so I didn't record any of that. But check these out. They turned out pretty cool. So my drawers turned out pretty cool, even though they was made out of a bunch of junk. If you notice, I went in and I put a bunch of dividers in, since this is going to be holding drill bits and nut drivers and things of that nature. A lot of small parts. I got this long tray. I got some long extensions and stuff. And we left plenty of spaces for cases to fit in here, but then also plenty of dividers. This deep drawer, it's going to hold some plastic molded cases. It'll hold a couple, not as much as I'd like, but as much as I need. Now, one thing, you're going to laugh at me. I did build my drawers right. It's just my guides are way too long. And I knew that going into this project, but with the way these guides are made, it looks like I could cut them off and they'll still work just fine. We're going to get into that here in just a minute too. So the first thing I need to do to these drawer heads is I need to get them cut to width, or in the case of drawer heads, it'd actually be the height. I'm going to do that first because this one is a 13-inch head and I only got a 13-inch planer. So that's going to work out perfect. Now I'm not going to cut them to length yet because of planer sniping, but I will cut them to width, plane them, and then I'll cut them to length. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that with any other guide, or at least any type of guide I've ever used before. These I've studied pretty good. It looks like I'm going to get away with it just fine. Let me cut the rest of these, and I'll catch you up with everything I've done so far. I got all my guides cut. I got my heads sanded and ready to go. And typically, I'd like to put on my drawer head now. But I got to figure out these guides. And this is the method you'd want to use if you've never used a particular drawer guide. Go ahead and lay them out, install them in the cabinet, see what you need. And that's kind of the process we're going to go through here. And if you're doing drawers, jigs are the way to go. Figure out your jig, whatever you need, and build you a jig. That way they all come out the same and it works every time. So what I figured out with these particular guides, if I flush this piece here on the bottom, I need 1.125 inches. So I'm going to get me a little jig that'll keep this guide running straight across the front of this drawer. Now I'm going to screw these in place and then we'll install some in the cabinet. Now with most drawer guides, 2 or 3 screws should be enough. If you're doing a heavy duty drawer guide, you might do more, but I'm going to put 3 screws in here and call it good. Now I don't know about this. We may have to come back and drill a hole and put a screw here. I got my guides screwed to my first drawer, or what I'm going to use for a sample drawer. Now I need to put the guides in the cabinets. But remember, we need to nail this blocking in. And how I calculate where to put that blocking is I'm going to take this drawer guide, I'm going to hold it on the face frame, maybe a 1/16 inch back, and then I'm going to measure to the farthest hole. And I'm getting about 14 inches. So what I did is I took me a scrap piece of particle board. Let me turn this around. I could take this scrap piece of particle board and slide it up to the face frame just like that. Now I'm going to take my blocking and I'm going to glue and staple them into place. Just like that, pushing it up against that jig. Now I can shoot some staples in it. I needed my blocking to be 1.25 inches. The best way to do that was to double up 2 pieces. That gave me my 1.25 inches. So now I'm just going to glue and nail that one on also. Your bottom drawer guide, it's real easy. It's just going to lay on the floor. But how do you keep these other ones up? If I was doing a whole bunch of cabinets where this is a repetitive number, again, I'd cut me jigs that match this height, and that way I could do a whole bunch of these. But another simple way without wasting a bunch of material is just take your framing square, hold it to the face frame, and then mark your blocking back there in the back. Now I've lost my pencil. There it is. Now we have a line to line that up on. And all I'm going to do is put a screw or 2 here in the face frame and one back there in the blocking when I get it where I want it. Just like so. I got a set of drawer guides installed on a drawer and the cabinet. Let's do a test run before we build the rest of the drawers. And that's working pretty good. One thing I'm noticing is I don't have hardly any clearance here. So I think I'm going to take about a 1/16 off my jig and let the front of these guides drop down a little bit. That will raise the drawer and give us a little bit of clearance here. Because if I put weight in it, it tends to rub a little bit. All right, so that gave us a lot better clearance right here. Just what we needed. Now we need to figure out how to put our head on. So we know we had a 1/4 inch overlay on each side. And then this is a 1/2 inch. So we need a 3/4 on either side. But on the bottom, we need to take a 1/2 plus this measurement, which is about an 1/8 inch. So about 5/8 of an inch on the bottom of the drawer and 3/4 on either side. Now that we got those numbers, we could put our heads on all the drawers. Power just went out. Anyways, We can put the heads on all the drawers now and put the guides on all the drawers and get it completely assembled. Mount these heads, a lot of people just glue and shoot them on or staple them on, and I don't like to do that. I like to screw them on. So if you need to do a fine adjustment, you got that option. Or in my case, I'm not going to paint the drawers, but I want to paint the drawer heads. So that way I could get them apart, do my painting, and then put them back together. So how I'm going to start this is I got me a scrap piece of wood here, and I'm going to drill me 2 holes, about an inch from the side, and try to center the subhead. Now, if you remember from our drawer video, this is your subhead. The subhead with the dado is the front of the drawer. That's where our head's going to go. So I'm going to set that down. And drill me 2 holes just like that. Now, for example, on this bigger drawer, I might do 4 holes. I'm going to do a couple in the back and then a couple in the front. Now I got those 2 done, but these other 2 already have guides on them, and I put all the blocking in it. So let me show you how I'm going to go about that. I got all these dividers in here, and I can't drill down, so I'm going to have to drill from the outside. So I'm going to take a little scrap block like this, and I'm just going to hold that in there and drill through. This block will keep it from busting out, and you won't make a big mess of your drawer. Just don't drill into your hand. It hurts. I've done it. If you need to clamp the block, that's probably a little safer. And just like that, it didn't blow out too bad. My screws will cover that. We have all of our holes drilled. Now we want to face out our heads. So I'm going to check for a cup, and I'm going to check for a bow. And what you want is you want your bow facing out. That way, if my hand was a drawer head, when it hits the cabinet, all the edges of the drawer head will hit the cabinet. If you do it the other way, now there's a bunch of gaps. So I'm going to make sure that my cup is out and my bow is out. Now sometimes you'll have them fighting or going opposite ways, and you just got to pick the lesser of the 2 evils. So how I'm going to do this, since these are some oddball guides I don't use very often, I just made me a couple simple jigs. I didn't make nothing real elaborate. So I'm cut me a piece of 5/8, and I'm just going to scribe me a line along the bottom of the drawer, just like that. And then I'm going to take a tape measure and split the difference. So far it's been just over 9/16 on both sides. That's what I have here. I'm going to check it high and low. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to very gently turn it around, and then I'm going to run my screws in it. When you're putting your screws in it, hold it down real good so it doesn't move. And just like that, we're going to screw on our drawer head. And now that your head's on, it's safe to put on your guides. So we'll line those up and attach these. I've had to do a whole lot of adjusting to get these other drawers to look like they do. I wouldn't be surprised if this one needed a lot of adjusting. If I was using normal drawer guides, I'd show you what I was doing. But these, I'm just winging it and trying to make look the best. There's a lot of play in them. There's really not much you could do. Mostly adjusting the drawer head around and trying to make it look the best I can. So you can see here, I need to bring that drawer head up and over, or the guide. I think I'm going to do a little bit of both. I got all my drawers set. I'm not 100% happy with them, but they're going to have to work. We are trying to build this as cheap as possible. But just remember, sometimes using that old junk isn't worth the stroke you're going to have. So be sure to weigh your options. But what I'm working on right now is I milled me some blocking that I'm going to nail on all the way around, just like that. And this is going to mimic the detail on the toolbox that you see here. So I'm going to get these nailed and glued on, and then we'll go from there. That's looking pretty good. next thing I need to do is I'm going to make some handles. You can barely see the detail here, but we need some handles. That way we can mimic the handles on the toolbox, and we'll make those right now. After digging through all my router bits and molders and stuff, the best thing I came up with was this old Craftsman molder. It has this little detail right here. We could use it for a finger grab, but let me throw this on the saw real quick. Now we have it on there. Send me a board. It has a whole bunch of reference lines on it. It's not going to make any sense to you, but basically every 1.25 inches is the individual piece, and then these marks right here on the end is where I want my cut to start. So that's what I'll line up with my molder here. So I'll take this, lean over, line it up with the molder, set the fence. We're going to cut it right there. I'll do that 4 times, and then we'll cut this. We'll put the blade back on, and we'll cut and mill it to size. This way you got a bigger piece to hang on to, and then you could do your fine detail milling later. So we got our 4 little grooves in here, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go cut it off right here on this line, and then I got a pencil mark here I'm going to cut it off of, and then that should end up looking something like that. I got all my handles cut out. Now what I'm going to do is take them over to the edge sander, and these front 2 edges I'm just going to round over just a little bit, smooth them up, and then this inside edge I'll do it with some handpaper. Now when I go to nail these on, I'm have to be a pretty good shot, so I may just clamp and glue them, but these can't go on today anyways because these need painted black and the cabinet's getting painted yellow. Nice custom-made handles. They'll match a little bit. I was getting my cabinet puttied up, ready for the final sanding, and I got some pretty good chunks missing out of the veneer here where it was old plywood. And the Fama wood would probably fill that. You may have to build it up in a couple layers. Now, a lot of y'all may know this, but one of the best putties for paint grade cabinets is automotive Bondo. It builds up, you leave it on kind of thick, fill in that hole, and once it dries, you can sand it, paint over it, and no one will ever know. So we're going to put some of this on here. I'm going to flip it over. I got a spot or 2 on the other side. Cabinet sanded up pretty good. This Bondo here, you won't even know it's there once we have it painted. And the last thing I want to do is I want to match this radius here that was created when they shaped the metal. How we're going to do it is with the 1/8 inch router bit. So I'm going to route both sides, inside and out, the bottom inside and out, and then the top we're just going to do the inside. We don't want to do here because we're going to put an actual top on this at some point. And then I think I'm even going to run down the sides here just to smooth it up a little bit on the bottom. We'll see how it comes out. So let me show you this right here. This is another reason why I absolutely love the Bondo, is I had to build this corner back up. I don't know what happened. Maybe got overzealous with the sander. But you could actually shape this Bondo with your router. And for paint grade, no one will ever know it happened. So let me get this. I'm going to touch these up with a hand paper, and I'll get it down on the floor. We'll start the top. Like everything else on this project, I'm going to have to piece together a top. I think that'll be fine because most of my weight's going to be right here. Now I was going to band this top so it had a little overhang, but I've changed my mind on that. This MDF paints up good enough and shapes good enough. I think I'm just going to make it flush all the way around, nail it on, we'll putty it up, put a little round over around the top, and we're going to call it good. Alright, so this has turned out pretty nice for a bunch of junk and some stuff laying around the shop. So far, all we have in it is some glue and some nails. Of course, I'll have to go buy some casters next week. And then the paint's going to be our biggest expense. I bought a gallon of primer. It's going to be used for several projects, so it's kind of hard to say how much primer I'll have in it. And then I bought a quart of oil enriched enamel. That stuff works pretty good in a cup gun. I've used it a couple times, so we're going to try it out on here. Of course, the shape of my garage is in right now. There's too much dust and stuff. I need to get it cleaned up. So we'll have to paint it next week. So stay tuned for that. We'll get the casters on it, we'll get the handles on it, and we'll get the drill press setting on it after we get it painted. In the meantime, I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and we'll catch you next time.